guys, my name is Matti. Today I'm going to show you guys how to light your YouTube videos, or really any talking head video for that matter. Here's the before. This is what my office would look like if I just had the normal household lights on. It looks horrible. And here's the after. I'd say it's a little bit better. Alright, so first let's take a look at some basics so we can understand what the heck we're doing here. There's a bunch of different terminology for different uses of a light, so we're just gonna go through some of those so we're on the same page and nobody's confused. Let's start off with a key light. This one is gonna be the brightest light lighting your subject, and really it's the main light, and that's why it's called a key light, I think. Don't hold me to that one. But this is your main light, and this is the light that I usually start off with. Next we have the fill light. Now this one's really subtle. It's just filling in the other side of my face. So we have the bright side here, and then we have the darker side here, and it's just bringing a little bit of exposure to the dark side, so we have some detail there. But this one's much more subtle, and you don't always need a fill light either. This would be a perfectly fine look right here. This would be perfectly good without any fill light, but I like to add just a little bit to bring out a little bit of that exposure, so there's some detail in there. Next we have the backlight. And this one's really just to give me some definition, just some separation from the background. And then we also have the background light, which just happens to be the same light. So I have one light that's working as the backlight, and it's also hitting the background, just giving it a little bit more exposure so it's not in the darkness like that. Not so good. Give it a little bit more light, you can see what's going on over there. Lastly, we have what are called practicals, and these are lights that are actually gonna be in your frame. So all these other lights, they're not in the frame. You can't see them in the frame, but there is one light that's in the frame, and that's this one over here. There's a light behind the lenses. So I'm actually using this little light over there just to give it a little bit more depth. Otherwise it looks kind of flat back there, it's all black. So I'm using this little light to bring out some of those details, but also give it more depth. I don't know about you, but I'd say that's better. Right now, all these lights are actually aperture lights, and there's a reason why I really like the aperture lights right now. First one is that they're just really high quality lights. So if you have a low quality light, you'll get kind of different color shifts in the lights. They might be really green or really magenta, or this light, even though it's the same model, will be different from this light. It'll just be all over the place, and when you mix and match those lights, you'll just get all sorts of weird colors and it doesn't look good. Aperture lights are really high quality lights, I would say. Two, they're fairly affordable. Now, before you guys get mad at me for $1,000 lights, if you look at the other lights on the market, these are pretty affordable, especially for LED lights. LED lights can be really expensive. They come down a little bit in price, but traditionally they've been really expensive. And then three, and probably the most important for me, is that I can control them by remote. So a lot of times like this, I'm filming myself, and I have a little monitor right up here. You guys can't see it, but I can see myself. So I can adjust the lights just like this, or dim them down a little bit, dim it up. I can do all that by looking at this monitor here and adjusting them without having to go to the light, adjust it, come back to the camera, look if it's good, and then go to that light, adjust it, go back and forth. I can do it all just sitting here with this little remote, and this is a really big thing, not only for when you're shooting yourself, but also when you're filming other people and you don't have a big crew. This way you can set up all the lights, you can go to your camera, have your talent sit down, and you can just adjust the lights as you need without having to go to each of the lights and just be wasting time like that. Now we're gonna go through one by one all the lights, and I'm gonna tell you which light I'm using, how I'm using it, and why. All right, we ready? Oh yeah, that one too. All right, so the first light is the key light, and right now I'm using an Aperture 120D with their light dome softbox. So this makes it a really big, nice, soft source, and that would be my biggest tip with the key light, is to make it nice and big. The bigger it is, the softer it'll be, the more flattering it'll be, and it just has this nice little wrap. Also, I like to place the key light about 45 degrees from my face, so it's only really lighting one side of my face, and then just this little triangle here and kind of my eye. That's called Rembrandt lighting. I think it just makes the face look a little bit more interesting with the bright side, and then we have some shadows on this side. There's some contrast going on. I think it's a really interesting look while still being fairly flattering. And I gotta say, if you need one light, this would be the setup, the Aperture 120D with the light dome softbox. This thing is just genius. I love the quality of the light that comes out of it, plus it's just super easy to use. Next we had our fill light. And this is just doing a subtle lighting on my face and also just a little bit on the background, bringing the exposure up just a little bit so it doesn't look like I'm in a dungeon. And fill lights, I think, is where a lot of people make mistakes. A lot of times people just blast the fill light, and the fill light is hitting the darker side of your face in this kind of lighting setup, and that just kills all the contrast, the really nice contrast that you've made with this light. So keep the fill light nice and subtle, and you actually don't even need a fill light sometimes. Sometimes it's actually better to use a negative fill, which is using just a black cloth or anything black dark right close to the face, and that's just gonna cut all the light from this side and make this shadow side even more pronounced. And for the fill light, I'm using an Aperture Lightstorm. I think it's called an LS1. It's kind of a panel, and I'm just shooting that straight into the ceiling. I have white ceilings in this office, and that just creates this nice ambient light that's coming down. It's not this hard light beaming into my face. It's just a really subtle look, just creating some ambient light. That's how I would do the fill light, make it nice and subtle. And shooting a light into the ceiling is a great way just to get some exposure in the room. That's a really cool kind of pro trick that you can do really easy, really quickly, just shoot it in the roof. Next we have the backlight, which is also hitting the background. So this is kind of a 2-in-1 light. It's lighting me from the back, but it's also lighting the background. And I kind of lied, there's actually another light in this setup that I've been kind of using and playing around with, and it's this little strip. Man, why is this so hard to point? This little strip of light right here. Sometimes it's a little bit brighter and sometimes it's a little bit darker, but it's just creating this little bit of a kick light, it's called. When it's just reflecting off the face and bouncing into the camera, you're getting this nice, cool little look. That is a backlight that I didn't really mention, so I kind of have two backlights going on right now. The one I've set up and also just natural light coming in from the window, and depending on the day, sometimes it's really bright if the sun is just poking right through, and then some days like this it's overcast and it's a little bit more subtle. And for the backlight, I'm using an Aperture LS1/2, I think that's what it's called, and I've just softened it up a little bit with some diffusion, and I've also used some black wrap to make sure it's not bouncing straight into my face. I don't actually want it to hit my face and create some harsh looking lights on my nose and stuff. So I've black wrapped the side of it so it doesn't bounce all over. It's just hitting my back and then that background where I want it to be. So you can definitely be creative with lighting and even use one light to do two different things for you at the same time. And then lastly, we have the practical light that we need to add over there. And I've been using this Aperture ALM9, which is just a tiny little light. You can just put this anywhere. It's a really cool light and it's still super bright. I really like this one. I've been using this one in the past, but they just sent me this one, the ALMX. This is a new one and I love this thing. If you guys could hold it, you would feel how just beefy this thing is. It's tiny, but it just feels like a block of metal. It's just super high quality, really good build, and it's even brighter than this one. It's actually super bright. Let me turn this on. This one's super bright for a little guy like this, and it even has this little boost mode. Booster, it goes even brighter. So this is a tiny light but super powerful. If you need just a tiny light to stick in any random place, this is your guy right now. So let's put this one where it belongs. There we go, we have the practical light, and this isn't maybe the best example of a practical light because you can't really see it. It's more like an accent light, but you guys get the point. It's a light that's in the frame and not outside the frame, just lighting from outside. But it just adds a nice little touch, lighting up the silver play button, just adding some depth over there and just making it a little bit more interesting. And for practical lights, you can use anything, any normal household lights, anything. You can go creative with them and use them to motivate the light in your scene. So for example, the window light over there, it just makes sense that there's light coming in from over there. But if it was a dark background and there was a strong light coming from there, you'd kind of wonder, where is that light coming from? It kind of hurts the brain subconsciously and you think, well, this is a really lit or fake lighting setup. But I think the best is always to try to make it as natural looking as possible so it's not throwing off the viewer. Again, you do not want to be distracting the viewer. It's supposed to be enhancing the frame. Now this is the setup I built over years, probably like 5 or 6 years, just adding different lights to my lighting setup. Do not think that you need to buy all these lights at once. And even though I said it's affordable, it costs a lot of money to invest in lights. But lights are one of those nice things where if you buy it once, it's gonna last you for a really long time, whereas a camera body might only last you a year or two. So a light is a much better investment in the long run. And you can also do this kind of setup with just normal household lights. It might not look exactly like this, but you can get a lot done with just some creativity. So there you go, that's how I light my YouTube videos, and this is the approach that I take with pretty much lighting any talking head or subject. I go through all these different types of lights, see which ones I need and how I'm gonna use them. I know lighting is a bit of a scary, weird area. For a really long time, it scared the crap out of me because I just didn't understand it. But if you guys enjoyed this and you guys wanna see more lighting videos, comment down below. I'd love to hear you guys' ideas on what kinds of things you guys would like to learn about lighting. All right, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'd love for you guys to be a part of this community. Hope you guys enjoy your day. I have to go to the dentist now.